There's literally like 776 characters on this show, and not one of them have a compelling story. And that's the problem. Good morning, everybody. It is Soap Opera Sunday here on the channel. And we're going to talk about the other American soap operas today, minus The Bold and the Beautiful, because I still haven't been able to get myself to try out that shit show. But we're going to talk about the other ones, and honestly, they didn't bring their A game over this past week, in my opinion. I would still say that, honestly, kind of by far Beyond the Gates is still doing the best of all the American soap operas. No matter how many boring filler Fridays they have, no matter how many storylines they've been kind of botching lately, they at least have a few storylines keeping me interested, whereas a lot of these shows barely have one, if any, like General Hospital. Still having a very tough time with General Hospital. We'll talk about them last again. Let's start with the Young and the Restless. Now, the LA story didn't get as much time this past week, but some of the stuff happening in Genoa City was better than the past few weeks. Kane and Phyllis finally hooking up. I think the show had been, since I've been watching, hinting that that's where they were going, and so I'm not surprised that they did finally hook up. I'm not totally against it. I don't know if I'm totally for it yet either, but I enjoyed the scenes. You know, something about The Young and the Restless that I am surprised I can say that I can't say for the other soaps right now is at least they are having more love scenes in November than the other soaps, and sex scenes too. So they're trying to at least throw something at us. I do think Jos Griffith still just throws things at the wall and sees what sticks, and that's kind of what I still see from the show overall. But they have little things that are keeping me interested and keeping me watching. Phyllis and Kane hooking up also plays into their story, I guess, even though I still despise the overall AI story that still is not making sense, but whatever. I like that Kane pretty much knows that Phyllis is the one doing it. He's still attracted to her anyway, but he's also still trying to find out that she's the one that stole his AI program. He, after having sex with her, tries to get into her computer, trying to figure out her password. Love that he tried I hate Christine as a password, but she caught him doing this. She was waiting for him in the shower. She steps out of the bathroom and sees him doing this, but doesn't tell him that she sees him doing this. At the same time, they also had Lily thinking about Kane and maybe finally thinking about giving him a chance. She hasn't wanted to since I've been watching again. And of course, in perfect soap opera timing, she's finally thinking about giving him another chance when he's having sex with Phyllis. And then later she runs into both of them together. Phyllis calls out Lily's jealousy, especially for someone who's been saying she wants nothing to do with Kane. So they had good scenes this past week for Kane and Phyllis. I was feeling it for the most part. The overall AI story, you know, I don't know if I mentioned this one of these past weeks, but I've meant to, that I find it odd how Jos Griffith really fails the vets on this show, you know. Last week, Days of Our Lives had their 60th anniversary, and all these old characters coming back was great and nostalgic, and they have all these great old characters that, in my opinion, are still viable if they were to have them be on the show. Young and the Restless has these vets like the Nickies, Jacks, Victors, and I could give two shits about them. They're an endless business stories that don't matter, and it's tired and it's old, and that is still one of the weak points of Jos Griffith. But something Jos Griffith does have on his show that the other soaps are struggling with is a couple with chemistry, and a younger couple with chemistry. Claire and Holden had scenes again this week, with Claire admitting to him that she enjoyed their fun night in LA, but she's not sure it's going to happen again. Claire's still trying to figure out what she wants in her life, especially where her relationships are concerned, and she even had a conversation with Nikki at some point. I've also been slowly finding out this backstory about Claire, that apparently she was psychotic at one point, maybe even tried to kill people. That surprises me, and it does make me laugh how she's trying to act holier than thou with Audra if she was a psycho in the past. Just giving it to Audra because she was swindling someone for money doesn't seem as bad as someone who tried to kill people, but, you know, that's what the show wants us to believe. I liked Audra and Claire getting into it over that, and kind of over Holden, I guess. Kyle wasn't on this week, which is fine because he's been boring when he hasn't been on, and I'm not feeling him and Claire. I do think Claire and Holden are the way the show still needs to go. I saw someone online say that Audra and Kyle have chemistry. I don't think I've seen them share any scenes since I've been watching in November. Or actually, it's been like a month since I've been watching Young The Restless, and they've had no scenes, so I don't know if they're going there. But it sounds like they could have a good quad on their hands with those four characters. At the end of the week, Claire saw Holden and Audra together again when she was going to meet him. Called Billy saying she has some information on Audra. So it does seem Claire's going to try and bring Audra down. But that was another story that worked for me. In fact, I will say when the LA story did finally get some time this week, I do feel like it's starting to run out of momentum. I do feel like Jos Griffith's bad writing is starting to catch up to it. Because suddenly, after not being on for a few days, the last time we saw Noah, he was with the detective. Now he's knocked out and locked in a room somewhere. But then also Sienna's with him all of a sudden, and they're both locked in the room. Don't know how we got from point A to point B, but I am assuming it's to make Mitch/Matt sound like a big villain here. I didn't really care for the Matt and Sharon scenes, especially since they started the scenes with the fire alarm constantly going off. That was distracting and not fun to listen to them have a few scenes with that going off. But I didn't mind the Noah and Sienna scenes, though. I still think Tamara Braun's the best part of the storyline. It was a good addition to the show for Young and the Restless. I'm still struggling getting over with the fact that those two played mother and son on Days of Our Lives and now are playing lovers, but I'm trying to come along to that because I do like Tamara Braun, and so far the Sienna character is the most interesting part of that story. But yeah, overall I do fear that that story is losing momentum for me. I don't feel like Jos Griffith's writing is going to be able to keep it compelling. Hopefully I'm wrong. And then we ended the week with some nostalgia with Christine and Danny getting remarried and Nina returning for the wedding, but then I found out that Nina didn't even attend her own son's funeral, so that was an odd decision by the show to have Nina show up to this, but not for her son's funeral. Make that make sense. Bad decision making there. Did like Gina returning too and reading Phyllis for filth at one point. I feel like Griffith was trying to play up nostalgia here for a ratings grab. I still feel like Jos Griffith is trying to save his job overall. And even though Young The Restless is probably the only other soap right now in America anyway that is keeping my attention with some of their storylines, I still think Jos Griffith needs to lose his job. So I hate giving the show too much praise, because it is the only other show besides Beyond the Gates that I can get through without being bored or without being annoyed too much. But he still needs to lose his job, I fear. Before we move on to Days and General Hospital, I do want to promote the Patreon. I am posting old episodes of soaps and giving my reviews of them. We got some Santa Barbara from 1984. He lights a match because he can't see. It's dark. There's no lights because the earthquake hit. But he doesn't realize there's a gas leak. Santana. Guiding Light from 1984. I'm a big Josh and Reva fan, and I'm glad I can cover that because I do want to point out their great scenes.
I wanted you. You wanted to be a Lewis. Any Lewis.
You still want me, don't you, bud?
And starting General Hospital in 1983, Laura's return to the show at the time.
No. No.
I knew she had to be mine.
Laura realizing she's being held by the Cassadines in these flashbacks. I don't know if I will stick with that era of General Hospital or move ahead after that story unless the GH fans join Patreon for only $3 a month and support it and want to see it. Let's move on to Days of Our Lives, though. Coming off of last week, the 60th anniversary, I was most looking forward to Days this week, and they unfortunately bored me for the most part. It was definitely back to the usual with these two head writers that have come aboard over these past few months of the show. I think their writing is good when they have the returning characters. They've done good with the big events, the funeral. I like the 60th anniversary party. I like seeing the older characters that we actually care about. But when they're stuck with their current cast that they have, it is a lot of boring stories, and they have not added enough pizzazz to the plots to make them more interesting. We have Marlena sick now at the hospital, so of course Belle and Eric are worried. It was good to see that Sean was still on the show, at least, having some scenes with Belle to comfort her. But Sean should be in Jada's story because they actually had chemistry. So I still question the decision-making with that. It doesn't seem like they want to make Jada a viable character, and that's the way I see it. I mean, I like the idea that they're doing with the cast of having them, all their single characters, get on a dating app. It seems very modern. It seems like the one of the only ways people try and meet each other these days, even though it's a terrible way to do it. And so I can see the realness to that story, but I don't know if it's going to work. Trying to pair Jada with Theo because of the dating app didn't really hit. They don't have chemistry, and it's a mismatch because of JJ trying to resign from the police force and Jada not accepting it. So there's already a problem between those two, but not in a way that makes me want to root for them to come around through that problem because they don't have chemistry anyway. And Jada should be paired with Sean, most importantly, because they actually have chemistry. But apparently Chad has now joined the dating app too. So we have all these singles. It's a modern way to try and hook people up on a soap opera that I like the idea. Don't know if the execution is working yet because of the lack of chemistry, because of the characters on the dating app. Jennifer, meanwhile, is still trying to get custody of Chad's kids. She's hired Justin to try and get that. Jeremy was trying to get through to Jennifer how it's killing Chad, and Chad and Thomas aren't even talking right now, which kind of actually gives credence to what Jennifer's doing if Chad and his son are having all these issues and they're not even talking much. But it's still the way of adding tension to that story, but it's probably going to be drug out a little too much. The best part of the show the past week, or at least the most entertaining part, was all of Sammy's exes commiserating over her possibly getting remarried. Always good to see those characters commiserate over Sammy. Lucas, EJ, Rafe. Lucas was calling them the Sammy Brady ex-husband club. And he was wondering if Sammy could have just been trying to get under their skin. Maybe she wasn't even telling the truth about marrying this guy. Lucas and Rafe admit she's the one that got away. EJ couldn't get himself to do that. I was entertained by those scenes. I don't know if we'll ever get a follow-up to Sammy being engaged to a Vitaly, because I don't think Allison Sweeney is going to be making enough appearances to make that storyline mean anything. What irked me about this, though, is that the show can force a place on the cast for the character of Rafe, who I think is long overdue to not be on the show. But they can't find a place for Lucas or Horton, a classic character. Always an entertaining character to watch. I'll never understand it because Rafe bores me to tears and always has. Didn't like Rachel being a psycho kid. It's one of the worst soap tropes. Is a psycho kid. You know, I like a teenager causing havoc, causing problems because they're a problematic teenager. But a kid being a psycho, it doesn't happen often on soaps, thankfully. But when it does, I find it stupid. I will say one thing the show is trying to do is give us questions like, why are Kristen and Tony locked in the Demira tomb? Is it EJ that's doing it, or is it somebody else? Who is in the pod that EJ and Dr. Rolfe have that they're saying this reunion is long overdue, trying to make us believe it's Stefano. I hope that's not the case, because obviously it can't be Stefano because Joseph Mascolo is not alive to play him. The only way that story works for me is if it's Lexi. I've been saying that forever. That's the only returning character that adds something to the cast, especially with Theo here. And then they're also having someone stalking Stephanie. The main choice would be it's Jeremy. They're even going to follow Stephanie on the book tour. They tried to poison a drink from DoorDash that Alex and Stephanie got, that Alex started to drink but didn't like it because it tasted weird. So they have questions that are at least building some interest, to me at least, about where they might be going with those stories. Let's move on to General Hospital, and then I'll get to a few of your Beyond the Gates comments from the past week. It's the same for me with General Hospital these past few weeks. I am struggling to really get into the show. I think the main problem, well, there's a lot of problems. Frank Valentini doesn't do it for me, period. That's the main thing. But one of the main reasons he doesn't do it for me is because he has too many damn characters on the show. It's always been a problem for him on General Hospital, in my opinion, and it's only gotten worse right now. There's all these characters, and for what? There's literally like 776 characters on this show, and not one of them have a compelling story, and that's the problem. You want all these characters, but you can't give any of them a compelling story. What's the point of having them all? We have this investigation into who shot Drew, and it seems to be leaning towards Portia right now. I got to see Kai for the first time with Trina and them talking about going to the police because they were at Drew's the night he was shot. We still have Curtis trying to fix his marriage with Portia, trying to stay together for the baby's sake, but she's still upset because she saw him kissing Jordan, even though she's having an affair of her own. It's messy. I don't mind that story as much. But I guess my problem with the Who Shot Drew storyline right now is that while that's still going on, another character was just shot. And so I'm assuming it's not going to devolve into a Who Shot the Professor storyline. But if it is, that's terrible writing, because you're having two of the same story on at the same time. Two of the same soap trope story on at the same time. I don't like a whodunit on a soap opera in general. It has to be really well written. But most of the time it's not. They just drag it out, and then it's the most obscure suspect. So that's not working for me. Like I said, the professor was shot after Rocco got in trouble for breaking into his lab, and they have Dante upset at Gio and blaming him because Gio and Emma did the plotting to do that in the first place. I kind of get it. I'm assuming they're trying to make it seem like Dante and Gio are going to be estranged from being father and son. It kind of fits the theme of Dante and Sonny back in the day, I suppose, but I can't say I'm like entertained by any of this, and that's the problem. I enjoy Alexis and Rick's scenes. They've always had chemistry, and I like them working together to get the teens out of legal trouble. And I didn't like that Laura won the mayor election after slapping the professor in public. Like, come on. I guess poor Charles is just corrupted from the top to the bottom if they're still voting for Laura to be mayor after that. Sidwell is the one that shot the professor because he was ruining their project. If someone in the comments wants to tell me what the project actually is, that'd be great. That's another question, is why do I care about Sidwell and Britt as villains when I've been watching for 3 weeks and I have no idea what their big plot is? They're working in a lab trying to do what? The show has not spelled that out at all. And it's my problem with the Sidwell character. The actor's fantastic. Love the actor. But Sidwell is like a typical Valentini era villain. They've all been the same. Just the flavor of the year villain for General Hospital, where they come into power and they have all their hands in all these different pots. But we've seen that time and time again from this show in recent years. And so I can't invest in that villain yet, even though I like the actor and I like Sidwell. It just seems very typical modern General Hospital villain that we've seen too much. I prefer Drew as a villain than Sidwell, and I see that's not the popular opinion online. It seems to be the other way around. I guess people are just sick of Drew, but Drew's like a villain that you can easily want to root against, and I feel like that's a good villain to have on a show. It depends on the writing, but so far they haven't overdone it with Drew since I've been watching. Maybe it's just because I've been watching recently. I haven't got to see really all of Drew being a villain, but he entertains me more in a pro wrestling way. I like when a villain is a villain and not just trying to be a cool villain, which I feel like they try to make Sidwell be a cool, entertaining villain. Give me my villain ice cold, like Drew. I mean, I like an entertaining villain from time to time, but like I said, Sidwell is just taking the place of all these other General Hospital villains I've seen since 2015. Since before that, since 2012. They're just the big over-the-top villain that gets their pots into everything from Faison to Britt's mother to, I don't even remember the other guy's name, but there's been a lot. Too much. And then they eventually eat the show alive. That's kind of it. I don't know. Another positive for me is that the character of Carly seems pointless, which is surprising. She's never been more pointless to the canvas. And honestly, I think that's a good thing after she ate the show for years. But yeah, Carly doesn't even have a purpose on the show right now. Overall, I mean, General Hospital is good at cliffhangers. The other soaps don't do this enough. They have a lot of good cliffhangers, from Sidwell shooting the professor to the next episode, Laura finding the professor in her trunk. So Laura's being kind of set up for murder here. And I just hope it doesn't devolve into a whodunit, I guess, is my main problem with the storyline. Laura calling Sonny for help. I don't understand why Laura and Sonny are so close these days. I don't really feel like they've always had this close relationship, but it also goes back to her being the mayor and clearly being corrupted, just like everyone else in the town. Can we have some characters on this show that aren't corrupted? That would be great. But because of characters like Sonny, Jason, Carly eating this show alive for so long, it has corrupted the rest of the characters on the cast who have to act as though they're good guys, even though they kill people all the time. I don't know. That's all I gotta say on General Hospital. I'm trying to stick with it. I know a lot of people in the comments have said it's their favorite right now. I don't get it. It's my least favorite of the four that I'm watching. I'm not feeling it. It's very it has that Valentini stench. It smells like Valentini's terrible shows. That's how it smells to me. Maybe I just don't like him too much. Lastly, I don't have a lot of time, but I do want to go over some of your Beyond the Gates comments over the past week. I'm not going to get into the Kat and Eva drama too much with these comments. We did enough of that over the past week. We'll probably be doing that for the rest of 2025. So I'm only going to read a few comments this week. Let's see. DGF6275 said, all Leslie was supposed to do was mail the invitations based on the invitation list provided. Leslie overstepped her role, as Anita and Nicole should have expected. Eva should have snatched that box from her mother. There had better be a proper large event for Leslie to get some... Yeah, I agree that hopefully Winterfest is some sort of way for Leslie to take a fall. I really am starting to think that Winterfest should be a big event. I do think it's going to be the event where Bill starts to feel the effects of the poison. And I'm wondering if Leslie will get the blame for that, maybe. Because they did set that up with the Hayley and Leslie interaction a few weeks ago. So that's a possibility. We all know Leslie wants revenge on Bill a bit. V Free says, Bill dumb, and dumber. Bill has been very dumb in this story with Hayley. They have him very stupid when it comes to Hayley. He cannot see the real Hayley at all, but it's going to help lead to his downfall. Dupree Richardson said, yeah, the Shanice and Leslie feud is starting off good. Team Shanice. And I think Tyrell and Jessica are cute too. Yeah, Tyrell and Jessica, I like them as the younger couple for the show right now. They could get boring, though. I don't know if I love their whole they might go to separate colleges story. It's realistic, but it's not necessarily entertaining. And I do like the start of the Shanice and Leslie feud, too. I hope it has legs, mostly because I just like the character of Shanice, and I would love for her to become a main character on the show. There's plenty of contract cast members, Derek, Ashley, Vanessa, that I think could go away and we could have some of the smaller characters like Shanice maybe be put on the main cast because they're more entertaining, which is what you should want on a TV show. Alicia said, Leslie's attitude at the hospital is one way to give your relative an unexplained aneurysm. Yeah, I would have hated being in the hospital as Leslie's relative. She was just raising Peach's blood pressure, not helping her. Cora Jones says, Leslie was just mad because Shanice was talking to Ted and touching him when she walked in. Leslie was faking and she's not worried about Peaches. I think it was both. I mean, at least that's what the show wants is trying to project to us, that they've tried to humanize Leslie with the Peaches character. So we are definitely supposed to believe that she really does care for Peaches. However, in typical Leslie fashion, her obsession with Ted seems to overpower all the rest of her thoughts. And that is why she did get so upset with Shanice, was because of Ted. Nadine Dunbar says, I hope Kat never accepts evil Eva as her sister. As I said in the comments, I don't want them to accept each other either, but I don't know if I have months and months left in me of those two going in circles with Kat just having pure hatred for Eva. It's going to get even older than it already is quickly. Quashed Sarah said, Martin was talking like a brother who was raised with Eva. Siblings do talk together about the other sibling, but that is usually because they have a history together. So Martin is trying to establish that sort of relationship with Eva, I guess. I think he isn't close enough to Eva to be talking like that about Kat, at least not yet. I agree with Quash Sarah there. I think I said that during the episode, that Martin having that conversation with Eva seemed a lot. I think that was the wrong person for Martin to vent to. Qua Sarah also said, Leslie, as a new rich person, doesn't realize that money doesn't fix every problem. This so seems to present that as a reality. True. There has to be a point that Leslie can't buy her way out of every problem. Finally, I love Danny and Andre. They are fun to watch. They got their rings. It was a good day for them. I have enjoyed seeing Danny and Andre happy. It definitely goes against the rest of the show right now. A lot of the characters aren't exactly happy. But as I said during the week, I believe that happy relationship in soap opera fashion is going to hit a wall when the Bill being poisoned storyline really starts to pick up. I do think Danny will be back in the toxic orbit of Bill. All right, just a couple more. Jay Way said, I love how Bill deflects all help to wise up to his sorry butt about Hayley, instead choosing to attack Jacob and Naomi, all the while secretly desiring Danny. He is so fixated on Andre, he can't see what's happening under his own nose. He deserves whatever he gets. Yeah. I kind of like that they wrote Bill this way, only because of how the show started, where Bill was just so cocky with his new younger woman in Hayley that he had this big affair with under Danny's nose, and now he's just getting played by that younger con artist girl. It's a good full circle moment for the Bill character. Lastly, Kathy said, is Ted really Eva's father? They just accepted Leslie's DNA test. I wish Kat would investigate. I hate Bill acting like he might want Danny back just because she is happy. I hope she doesn't get caught back up in his world. He cheated on her multiple times. We'll see where they go with the who's daughter. There's all this speculation. I've been jumping onto the speculation that maybe Kat and Eva were switched at birth, and that's why Kat is so much like Leslie. The show has tried to tell us that Ted is really Eva's father, at least for right now. That could always change. Leslie, I remember the scenes where Leslie, after the big anniversary reveal, was talking about how she had other secrets. So that is why I do think the show has something else planned. Maybe Eva really isn't Ted's daughter, or maybe she is, but Kat is really her daughter. There's plenty of different possibilities. It could be nothing. Maybe this is just the way it is. They're both Ted's daughter, just with different mamas. Who knows? As for Danny and Bill, I like Danny and Bill. I do. Do I think they should be endgame necessarily? Not really. Are they going to get back together at some point? Yes. They will be back in each other's toxic webs. And how the show writes out of that, or keeps them together, or keeps a triangle with Andre, I think it could be good, though. If the writing is good for it, and so far the writing for that, in my opinion, has been the best storyline overall. Like from February when the show started to now, I feel like they've done the best with the Danny, Bill, Andre dynamics, and now throwing in Hayley as the con artist works wonders too. So if they could keep that momentum from that story, I am excited to see where they take the characters. I have come to like Danny and Andre together, and I think they're obviously the happier couple and the less toxic couple. I mean, depending on Andre's secret that they've been building up to, that he doesn't want to take pictures of himself. But yeah, I'm excited to see where they take those characters overall. All right, I will be back for the next few episodes of Beyond the Gates that are on this week. I don't know how many because of Thanksgiving. And next week, I'll be back for Soap Opera Sundays.